I come in peace. I come in peace. I don't want no smoke with y'all. What's up, guys? Welcome back to The Secret Life of B. I'm B, as you know, and in today's video, I'll be doing something that's honestly very long overdue on this channel. I have neglected my responsibilities. I am sorry. Today's video is a what I read recently, and the recent in question is books I read since March. We are in June right now, so yeah, I'm so sorry. I wish I could be the type of person that can give you a book review, TBR every month with several books mentioned. I just can't, because the way my brain works, the way it be working up here, it's just a struggle for me to even read more than one book a month. And so because I wanted to give y'all more in one video, I'm just grouping them together. Okay, that's my excuse. That's my excuse. But anyways, I do have quite a stack. I have 5 books in total, 4 of which I have physical copies of. And so yeah, for the most part, I think these last few months have been really great reads for me, besides one, which I'll be ranting about at the end of this video. But anyways, let's get into it. So I have my stack of 4 books with me right now, and I'll be discussing them in order of when I finish them, and then I'll get into the audiobook after these. So the first book that I finished was a book I'm sure some of y'all recognize from my Valentine's Day February video, which is Real by Kennedy Ryan. I gave this a 4.75 star, really loved it. I think the reason I didn't give it a 5 star is just because I was expecting something different than what we got. And I feel like maybe that was my fault. But anyways, for any of you guys that don't know what this book's about, just to give you a short rundown, we have a director by Kanan and a aspiring actress by the name of Neva. And you know, Kanan, he's a pretty established, critically acclaimed director, and he's tasked with having to cast for the main lead for one of his biggest movies to date, right? This is a big a risk for him, and he has to really put a lot into who he's casting. So he goes to this musical in New York, and he sees Neva, and she's an understudy, by the way, and she absolutely kills it in this musical, and he cast her, right? And so from there on, you have drama, you've got romance, you've got tears. It's it takes you on a ride, right? And you know, like I said before, this is a romance book, but it's not just romance either. I feel like a big portion of this book revolves around Neva's family. You'll find out pretty early on in the book that Neva is estranged from a part of her family, and it caused a lot of issues for her. And throughout the book, you kind of get to see her work through that, which I really loved. I loved how it was done. And so, yeah, and also a really cool thing about this book, besides it being a dual point of view, if I really love dual point of view, I'm sorry to realize, it's also a kind of mixed media, because we get sprinkles of the script that they're filming in the book, and I think that's so cool. So yeah, the writing, love the writing. I think Kennedy Ryan can write her butt off. I was impressed immediately, and the thing is, she's writing dual point of views. You'd expect for the dual point of views from like a writer that doesn't know what they're doing to like not be that different, right? Just change the name and you've got a dual point of view. No, she changes her writing style. I feel like she knows how to convey different personalities through her writing. I feel like even if I didn't know, if I didn't read the title of who the point of view was belonging to, I would still be able to figure out who I'm reading. You know what I mean? And again, she's even writing even more differently when she's writing the scripts, because the script is historical fiction. So it's based off of the Harlem Renaissance, right? So I think she's a really talented writer. The romance in this was great. First of all, Black romances, I've been saying it's a very different experience reading Black romances. I feel like I relate more to the characters here, obviously, but also they're grown. You know, this is an adult novel. They're grown, so I feel like this love is very mature. It felt more real to me. Okay, and I really enjoyed it. There's also a lot of spice in here, so if you love spice, you'll be impressed. And again, it's also got some drama in it too, because we are in Hollywood. Mostly drama revolving around Kanan and his past relationship. Some stuff goes down. It's pretty, you know, it's not the biggest portion of this book, but it did happen. It did happen. There's also like they're sneaking around when they start dating. It's a very fun book, but also very emotional. Like I said, because she is estranged from part of her family, it's very hard to read sometimes because parts of this I felt like I could relate to, or parts of it I felt like I understood where she was coming from. I actually felt a little bit eerie how much I was kind of relating to some of this stuff. Not that I'm estranged from my family, but anyways. But yeah, I thought it was a great read. I guess the reason, like I said before, why I didn't give it 5 stars is because the back of the book, they make it seem like it's gonna be like Hollywood, the Netflix show that I had mentioned in the other video. And that was drama filled. That was like entertaining. This was, entertaining at parts, but I felt like we were gonna get more of the Hollywood aspects, more of the behind the scenes stuff. Like, we would actually see them promote this film. That's not kind of where it went towards the end. So I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't get that much of the film itself. Like what happens when you're promoting it or all that stuff. Technically, we didn't even get to see the ending of it filmed because of other stuff that happened. But regardless, it was still a great read. But yeah, I would say definitely pick this up. It's definitely worth it. A really good romance book, and you will not be disappointed. Okay, so the second book that I finished was something I finished in April, and it is a book some of y'all might recognize. Okay, Six of Crows. All right, you might be thinking, girl, didn't you mention that in your very first video that you did on this channel over a year ago? Yeah, it was. Listen, I am a slow reader, but also I'm a mood reader. Like I said in the beginning of this video, sometimes I just don't feel like reading a certain genre or a certain book. But I give this book a 4.25 stars, so it was still great. I think the writing is really nice here. I also was watching Shadow and Bone, so I feel like that helped as well. I think that I really loved the characters. I loved the world building as well. Why didn't I give it a 5-star? I do think parts of this might have been a bit slow for me. Maybe the pacing was an issue. I mean, I feel like even though I love this book so much, why did it take me so long to finish it? I don't know. So that's why I gave it a 4.25 star, but it's still a very good read. For those of you that don't know what Six of Crows is about, it's a book by Leigh Bardugo, which you guys know I really do like Leigh Bardugo's writing. I guess I'm her stan. So we have, it's sort of a heist novel, but it takes place, it's a fantasy book, so it takes place in a different, world, right? And these crows, they call themselves, they are tasked with having to break someone out of jail, right? And there's just so much to this book. I feel like I don't know how much I can say without spoiling stuff, but if you're familiar with the Shadow and Bone universe, you probably already know a lot. This book is very popular. And so yeah, first of all, I just love the characters. Again, it feels like found family trope almost. I feel like they genuinely care for each other, even if they don't admit it. I think the characters are also very interesting, well-written characters. There's a lot to them. Like Jesper, for example, I find him hilarious. I love Jesper. And also the main guy that's kind of leading the crows. We have Kaz, who I just like Kaz so much. I think he's such an interesting person. He's got so much that he's hiding under the surface, and he only trusts a few people. And I think he's really freaking cool as well. Also, it helps that I knew who was playing them in the show. And in the show, I think the actors, they just look so good. I don't know. But anyways, a 4.25 star. I've been reading this for a long time, so I feel like I can't really say a whole lot because honestly, I started reading this over a year ago. But Six of Crows for you, definitely worth the read. Okay, now we are at the more recent reads. So the third book is a book I finished on my birthday, May 13th, and it's Take a Hint, Dani Brown. Another book that I have already mentioned in my February Valentine's Day video. So I finally finished it, and by golly, I freaking love this book. I think it is my favorite Brown sister book. And I ended up reading it last. I don't know how that happened, but I really did enjoy this one. So for those of you that don't know about this book, it is part of the Brown Sisters trilogy. Not really a trilogy, you don't have to read in order, because I didn't. But we have Dani Brown, who I believe is a professor at this university, and she's such a cool person. She's very interesting. She's very spiritual, but not in the religious sense. She's also someone that is very colorful. she's got pink hair on the cover. She's always dyeing her hair. She's vibrant, I feel like, is her personality. She's just very interesting to read. I don't know how to explain it, but compared to her sisters, I feel like she's the most unique out of them. She also is bisexual, which is really cool. In the book, she's not in a relationship with a girl, but she does reference to one that's passed. And she's someone that really doesn't feel like she can fall in love. So she just wants to settle for a quick FWB type of deal, okay? A quick friends benefits type of thing. So she's wishing for that to happen, and lo and behold, we have Zephyr, goes by Zaf in this book, and he is a former rugby player who's now working as a security for the college that she works at. And they're friends. So this is like a friends to lovers story, right? They already know each other. There's already history, which I think is why I enjoyed it the most out of the other sisters' books, because those books, their relationship started off as strangers or somewhat strangers. Like, I mean, obviously Chloe knew who the guy was, but still, this felt like there was more here, right? And basically, there is a fake drill that happens where he has to carry her out of the building, and it's all filmed everywhere, and he already kind of has a crush on her. So people can tell by looking at him in the videos, oh man, there's something going on. And what do? They play off of that. They pretend to fake date. So the fake dating trope, we have the friends with benefits, and then we have the friends to lovers. There's a lot going on here, and I really enjoy it. I also think that there's a lot of heart in this book as well, especially with Zaf's storyline. Zaf has a very tragic past, and he hasn't quite, I guess, gotten over that in a way, and that's kind of why he refuses to kind of go back to his life with his rugby life. You know, there's a lot of fun in this book, but there's also a lot of heart in this book as well, and I feel like that's really exemplified by Zaf's story. You know, he has a very tragic past, you find out pretty early on, actually, and I think because of this past, it really prevents him from falling for people, like getting into relationships, even though he's a very romantic guy, but also prevents him from getting too close to people and from him kind of exploring the full potential of what he wants to do. And so through this, you really get to go through that journey of him coming to terms with everything and accepting that he can move on and he can have everything that he desires and wants in life and go towards those goals without having it be so painful for him, you know, because it is a tragic past. But what I really liked about his character is that he experiences anxiety. He has a lot of moments where he is just experiencing anxiety, and as someone that has anxiety, I feel like I could relate to his character 100%. It was a really interesting experience reading his character, because I was like, damn, I can kind of see me. I can kind of see me in his character. But I think that's why I really liked his character, like him, out of all the other Brown Sisters trilogy books. I think I liked him as a love interest the most as well. Not only just because, you know, he is a man of color, but also I just feel like I could relate to his backstory more as well. And then of course, you know, Dani also has stuff she's dealing with as well. She's had a really bad breakup, a really bad experience with love in general, and it's causing her to not really feel like she can connect with people on that level to where she can be in serious relationships. So she sort of pushes people away before it can get to that level. And in this book, you know, with her fake dating with Zaf, she overcomes that and she realizes she can actually have what she wants, which is exactly what Zaf is going through. So again, I love this. I gave it a 4.75 star. I feel like I knocked off, you know, 0.25 points because the beginning of the book was kind of goofy. I'm not gonna lie. There was, like I said before, there was a moment where they're escaping the building from a fire drill, and like anyone that's been in fire drill is like, it ain't that serious, but he was acting like it was life or death, which I guess makes sense for his character. But still, I was like, okay, this is kind of silly, but I'll go through it, I'll go with it, I'll go along with it. And it did push the story forward. It's like the first thing that happens in the book. But yeah, I just thought that was a little bit silly, but we enjoyed it nonetheless. 4.75 star. Definitely pick this up if you want a romance book, a quick read, and definitely the best book in the Brown Sisters trilogy. So the last book in this physical copy list is a book that I actually finished literally yesterday on June the 8th. And I just was like, girl, I gotta make a video while these thoughts are still fresh in my mind because I enjoyed the book so much. And I'm sure it's a book that you guys have heard of, at least the ones that frequent book talk. And it is called The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. And boy, was this fun. Now, I did give it a 3.75, which is lower than the other books I just mentioned, but that doesn't mean I don't like it. I was talking to my friend about this earlier. For me, a 3.75 is above average, okay? If I had given it a 3, then that would have been like average, forgettable, right? But this is a 3.75, okay, almost a 4. There is issues I have with this book, but I really, really enjoyed it. I think I'm gonna make a separate video about it just because I feel like this is something I want to talk about in its own video. But to give you guys a rundown on what the book's about, if you don't know, it is a fantasy romance book. It takes place in this universe of vampires. So it is a vampire book. If you know anything about me from the first video I uploaded, y'all know vampires. Me and vampires go way back, okay? Twilight and Vampire Academy. So when I read that this was about vampires, I jumped at the chance. And so the book starts off with this main character named Araya, and she is training before she gets put into this whole game that only happens like once every 100 years. It's called the Kajari. It's essentially, people compare it to the Hunger Games. I guess you can call it that. But really you're fighting to the death. One person wins. That's usually how it happens. It lasts for like 4 months. Strenuous activities. People are going to be not making it out alive. And the thing is, she's the only human in this whole games. Everybody else are vampires. And so you basically follow her journey through the games. She's trying to win it for a certain reason. The male main character is trying to win it for another reason. They obviously have a connection here. That's where the romance comes in. But yeah, there was a lot to be said in this book because there's just so much happening. There's a whole universe, not even just with the vampires. There's also gods in this universe, you know, gods of death, gods of fertility, gods of water, like all that kind of stuff. And so the god that we focus on in this book is Nyxia. That's how you pronounce her name, girl, I don't know. She's the god of, damn, I don't even know. She is the mother of vampires in this story. She's also a goddess that was exiled. So this whole Kajari tournament is in her honor, which I find very interesting. And in the book, there's other gods, like I mentioned. So I'm sure in the other books in this series, because there will be more, we'll be touching on other gods and maybe other creatures that belong to these gods. Either way, again, I thought it was fun. I thought it was a very fun spin on the vampire story that I've read before in high school. This is not urban fantasy. It takes place in its own universe, its own world. So I thought that was really cool. Also, there's different types of vampires in this. And there's also, like, you know, different houses as well. Not even just different species, but different houses. So there's a lot of tension, just a lot of power nabbing here. It's very cool. But why did I give it a smaller rating if I enjoyed it so much? Ultimately, it just came down to the writing. Personally, for me, I did not enjoy how lost I felt while reading this book. It felt like I was just thrown into this freaking tournament. Like, there's a lot of exposition and context that I feel like was not brought to us in time. So when things were happening, that's when like the first mention of it would happen. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. It felt very overwhelming and very confusing at times. And so I wish that was different. I also, you know, by the end of the book, I wasn't too sure how I felt about this main couple. Still not sure. We'll see with the second book because it has come out last month, or 2 months ago actually. So yeah, for the most part though, I think the writing is what prevented me from giving it a higher score, but I do think that I will probably enjoy the second book a bit more because I've heard a lot of good things about it. So yeah, I would suggest picking this up if you like fantasy, well, let me take that back. I suggest getting this book if you like fantasy romance, okay? That's very different. Let me school y'all into something real quick. Fantasy romance and romantic fantasy, two different things. Fantasy romance ends in romance. It is basically stories that center romance but have fantasy elements in them. And then you have romantic fantasy, which is a fantasy novel that has romantic elements, and there is sometimes a love line, but it's never like the main focus, right? This is fantasy romance. So the main focus is the romantic line, but at the same time, there's a lot of focus on the fantasy world as well. I think there's enough here to where even if you're not into the romance, which I feel like you are because the romance is pretty good for the most part, you will still find stuff to like about this book. But yeah, the romance itself, really good. The spice scenes, there's only 2 spice scenes, but those spice scenes, because they start off as kind of rivals to lovers, the tension is there. You can feel it on your fingertips. Okay, and you know, it's a vampire and a human. You can do your own imagination on what happens. But oh my God, there's the 2 scenes in this, especially the first scene that oh my God. I will go into more detail in my actual review, but yes, 3.75 star. I did enjoy this, but because the writing can't give it a perfect score. That's the 4 physical copies books, but let's talk about the 1 audiobook I read, and the 1 book that was not highly rated on this list, baby. It wasn't. It is quite low rated, probably the lowest rated book I've read. Maybe not, I don't know. But I will say I somewhat enjoyed it still. And that book is ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, the graphic audiobook. Yeah. Okay, so I finished the ACOTAR audiobook back in April, and I rated it a 2.75 star, which in retrospect might have been a little bit higher than it should have. But listen. I got no beef with you guys, okay? I'm in no position to judge, okay? If you like it, I love it. Listen, I was a twihard back in high school. We're all on the same boat here, all right? And so I just want to know, like, help me understand, because I'm clearly missing something here. Now, like I said before, I listened to the audiobook. I feel like that actually made me like the book even more. I feel like in reality, this book is probably like a 2 star, but the audiobook bumped it up a lot because that audiobook, oh my God, I mean the graphic audiobook, okay? Not the normal audiobook. My friend put me onto the graphic audiobook, and that audiobook was a whole experience. It was a production, there was actors, there was special effects, there was music. It really sets you to this universe, and I feel like that's why I was able to still enjoy it, even though I had so many issues with the book, all right? Now, let me just say, I will continue reading this, well, listening to it. I don't think I'll ever read it, but I will listen to the second audiobook eventually, sometime, maybe this year, because my friend is a big fan of it, and I want to not be a part of that. Like, I hate like FOMO. I hate missing out on stuff. I want to know the jokes. I want to know what's being said. So I will probably listen to the second book just to get a feeling for it. I've heard people say it gets better. Hopefully, maybe it does. Maybe I'll continue. It was my first fairy book that I've ever read, so there's that as well. But let's get into the things that I did not like, shall we? Honestly, I think a big portion as to why I could not get into this book was because of the main character. I genuinely could not stand her, okay? And already, we're talking about a 19-year-old, so I'm 27. Like, there's obviously, I can't relate a whole lot to a 19-year-old. But I wish they aged her up a little bit. I mean, what I liked about The Serpent and the Wings of Night, they made her 23 at least. So, you know, this 19-year-old, I already am not vibing with this whole relationship that's being established with her and Tamlin, however you say his name, because he's like an immortal fae. So, you know, a little bit uncomfortable there, even though she is legal age. But also, I just felt like her as a character was not believable as a heroine of this story. She's positioned as someone that has so much power and so much strength and, you know, someone that can actually save the day. People treat her so highly in this book, and I'm like, well, what's the reason? Because she doesn't feel like she's got a lot going for her. Maybe there's stuff in the other books that explain why she's treated more highly than she should be, but like, she just feels like a regular girl. She doesn't even feel as like capable. I mean, not to compare to the Serpent, but with the Serpent, at least the main character in that, even though she's human, even then I feel like her strengths make sense. I can buy that she might win in battles and that she might outsmart people. With Farah, I'm like, what are you bringing to the table, miss? I don't think the little bow and arrow gonna take you much. It's not gonna take you far. So I am a Farah hater. I'm sorry. I find her bland. I find her whiny. She complains so much, repeats herself all the time, and I just don't think that she's a heroine that's believable in her own story. I don't know why we're relying on her to save the day. But then you get into the story and you realize why they're relying on her. And that comes into the other thing that bothers me with this story, because the whole book, you know, when I'm reading it, I'm thinking, oh, this blight stuff must be serious. Like, there's got to be something big that's on the horizon. We get to the end of this book, y'all, this blight is just the actions of a scorned woman. Oh my God. It's just a curse that a woman by the name of, Amarantha? I don't know. Puts on the main character, the fuck? Tamlin. She puts on Tamlin, and the curse is set up in a way that it can only be broken if a human, kills a fae out of pure hatred, and then falls in love with Tamlin, and she has to say, "I love you." That's the curse, and that's why Farah is important, I guess. I just felt like that was just a letdown. I feel like there should have been so much more to this story. There should have been so much more to the history behind the blight. I'm thinking that there's an actual threat, and there is none. This whole big bad villain is just someone that's mad that she got rejected. That's the heart of the story, and I'm like, I read that for nothing. Well, I listened to it for nothing, whatever. And I also find the progression of events to be kind of hard to read. But like I said before, I was glad that I was listening to it in the audiobook because I could fast forward. I had it playing at like 1.5, 1.75 speed. And so I could get through it quicker, right? But there were parts that really dragged for me. And I also feel like, because I wasn't interested at all in the romance, and I found it very uncomfortable with her being in the castle, not doing anything, I'm like, nah, I don't really care. So then we get into the ending of the book, and she's in this trial, whatever, to like try and break the curse. Either she has to complete these tasks or she has to solve a riddle, which, by the way, this riddle was obvious from the start. From the start. I guessed that immediately. But the trial itself, listen, again, not to compare to Serpent, but the Serpent trials had issues in itself, but this felt very randomly placed. Like, I don't know how we got there, but it didn't fit for me. And again, because I don't believe this is a main character that can even survive in this world or has any sort of power to her own self that she can beat other people, I just wasn't buying that this was even capable for her to like finish. Like, I don't know. I'm not even making sense, honestly, but I just have a lot of frustrations with this book. Again, though, I did really like the audiobook, and because of all the special effects and stuff that was happening, I feel like the world building might be pretty decent in the next book, enough to keep me there, because again, I never read a Fae book. Also, the characters in general are also very just boring to me. I feel like I don't really care what happens to Tamlin, whatever. Don't care what happens to him. Sorry. Lucian, I actually kind of liked him a little bit. I feel like his backstory was more interesting. And then we have Rysand, who I actually feel like is the most intriguing character in this book, unfortunately, because he's actually not a good guy. Very morally gray, I guess you could say, but I didn't particularly like him. I didn't trust him, but at least he was giving something. He was bringing something to the table. Anyways, that's my review for ACOTAR. I loved it. I wish I really liked it because it is so popular on TikTok. I would have loved to be part of the community. You know, I am looking at the fan art, very good fan art, okay? I know it's gonna be turned into a TV show. I'm hoping they cast some attractive people. That will get me to watch. I can be shallow, okay? I can watch a show for attractive men. I'll do it. I'll take one for the team. But yeah, that's my review for ACOTAR. Gave it a 2.75, and we will be continuing with the series, but I just had to let those thoughts, this rant, be heard and documented on this channel. Yes, indeed. So anyways, that's the end of this video. I hope you guys took some enjoyment out of this. Maybe you guys read the same books I did. Do you feel the same or differently? I'm pretty sure I might have some ACOTAR fans upset in the comment section. I come in peace. I come in peace. I don't want no smoke with y'all. I had to give my opinion, but let me know what you guys are reading for the rest of June and July. I will be dropping other videos as well. I'm going to be coming back full force. Don't quote me on that. But we will be coming back. So anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
I never understood why somebody would just hate you for no reason. You don't even know the person.